partner. So you may have to mess the chairs up a little bit. So go ahead and do that just as quickly as possible, and then we are going to get started. And if you could bring the stage lights down just a little bit dimmer on me, right? So I can kind of see what's going on out there, okay? All right, everybody got your partner. You need to be able to look them square in the eye, okay? Just one partner apiece, right? Okay? Everybody got their partner. You need to be able to look at them directly. Okay, let's go with the first skill. The first skill is called silence. And the important thing to remember with each of these is its own unique skill. We're not saying that, especially with this first one, it kind of freaks students out, or all of us. I mean, I was a student doing this summer, right? You're saying that I should be listening this way? Silence means complete silence, no nonverbal feedback at all, right? None. So fix a look on your face. It doesn't have to be a mean look, and it can be a slight smile, right? But once you have that look on your face, you're not supposed to be. What do we usually do whenever, because we think it's polite, is we nod. We might say, yeah, okay. None of that. This basic skill of listening is silence, and it's complete silence, right? We also want you to be thinking about exactly what you're saying if you're the listener, right? And listening to their whole body, right? You're listening to their body, right? When it is that they become excited, or when it is that they maybe cross their arms, okay? All right, so the first practice question is, right, listening in complete stillness. We don't add anything, we don't talk when we're listening. And each person will have 2 minutes, or each partner will have 2 minutes. So it's, what's your favorite meal? It's very easy, but don't just say pizza, right? You've got to say pizza, maybe the type of pizza, maybe the first time you remember having pizza, maybe that your mom or dad makes pizza. You need to talk about whatever that is and how it's made, or maybe your grandmother made it, maybe it was the meal that you had on Sunday morning, right? But you need to talk for about 2 minutes, okay? All right, when you hear my cowbell, that means stop, and we're going to switch, okay? All right, start. What's your favorite meal? If you're listening, you are not doing anything, right? You are quiet. You're expressionless. Test, 1, 2, test. Okay. Time to switch. Actually, I only gave you 1 minute in the interest of time. So you've got 1 minute. Go ahead. Switch speakers. Some of you are listening with head nods. Okay, all right. So you've got this first skill of listening in silence, and this usually is somewhat difficult for people. I saw people like it was just impossible for them to listen in silence. Why would we use this skill? Silence, right? It feels so unnatural to us, right? The deal is that there are times in which somebody is saying something that may trigger you, right? And instead of you reacting in some way, like maybe crossing your arms or whatever, or giving them some kind of a scowl, right? This is one of the times when if you practice this skill, you can kind of give them nothing, right? A little bit, or as if you're really contemplating it. That would be one reason for that. The other is you don't want ultimately to lead the conversation. So if I'm talking about, oh yeah, yesterday, today was a great day, Monday was wonderful, and I'm getting lots of nonverbal encouragement, right? And then I say Tuesday was difficult, and you go, right? You do something that closes off, you shut down, right? Then you're leading the conversation. So soon I'm never going to tell you anything real about what's going on in my life. You're being trained, you're training the other person, right, to only talk about the good things because you're shutting it down. So that's one of the reasons why we might use that skill. Okay, so, oh, shoot. Did I not go on? Okay, right. I'm sorry about that. What's your favorite meal? Tell your partner. Okay. All right. The next one is called footprint, and this one also students seem to think is just a little bit more difficult. They get easier as we go along because they're closer to what we have been socialized to do. But again, this is another skill, right? It's a listening skill that we learn that we may need to use from time to time, okay? Again, this one is very much related to you not wanting to lead the conversation. You want people to feel comfortable fully explaining themselves to you, right? Fully giving their perspective on something. Okay, so we practice using only the words and phrases that we've heard from the speaker to reflect on what we're hearing. Affirm the word. So if you give them some feedback, so we have two skills right now that we're working with. You can either be silent, completely silent, right? Or you can repeat back to them only the words that they said. So if they said, I really had a great time on vacation, and you say, oh, great time on vacation, that's okay, right? But if I say, I really had a great time on vacation, and you responded with, so you got plenty of rest or family time and travel, that's not staying with them, right? That's you interpreting it. We'll get to a time when we interpret through our listening, but that's not staying with them. It's taking the conversation in a different direction, and you end up making it about you, right? Do you know of somebody who, whenever you're talking to them, they always turn the conversation to them, right? Or tell you a story that is it might be on the same theme, but you don't feel like you're being listened to, okay? So this one is called footprint, right? And in this one, you're going to describe your religious upbringing, right? And in ways that has changed, if at all, from your religious upbringing, okay? All right, and you can go. Okay, take just a moment of everybody being quiet and think. Just reflect on both of those experiences, right? Silence and footprinting. Just think, was either of those more difficult, right? So were you able, if someone said, I'm Catholic, you just reiterate, oh, you're Catholic, right? Instead of saying, oh, I know other Catholic people, then it becomes about me, right? So I'm going to be quiet for just a second. Just reflect on the experience of doing both of those different listening skills. Okay, so this next one is called encouragers, and this is what many of you were like, oh yeah, I naturally want to do that. We're kind of socialized to do the encouraging, right? Information, it may or may not be a natural, useful tool to you. You want to avoid it being a habit, right? We can go into fake listening when we're encouraging, and we could be going, right? I'm trying to let them know that I'm listening, but I'm really thinking about something else. I'm thinking about going to study, what's going to be like in the library tonight, going to meet my boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, okay? Right? Avoid using it when you're hearing something that you don't agree with, right? Don't necessarily be giving encouragers. Now, encouragers are those things that are natural to us. It's shaking our head. It's making real good. Well, you want to make eye contact in all of these, but it's giving what we call vocalics. Uh-huh. Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. Now you have the opportunity to use all three, and I want you to try and find moments when you're using silence, when you are giving footprint, and when you are giving encouragers, but don't just encourage the entire time, because that can lead to fake listening, right? Also, remember, when we get into difficult conversations, there's no statute of limitations on dealing with a difficult question. You can deal with a difficult question and say, you know what, I'd really like to think about that, your perspective, and reflect on that. And then the next time we're together, I'd like to continue that conversation, okay? So here we're practicing, right? We add signals that let the other person know we're listening, tracking, engaging, curious, following along, okay? We're still not doing anything vocally unless we're just repeating the words that they've said, right? Include nonverbal cues, facial expressions. Okay, so are you noticing that these questions are getting just a little bit deeper? Okay, so next we go to the deepest one so far, and that is, what do you think makes America great? What sustains America? Books, speeches, holiday, documents, rituals, or traditions? Okay? All right, and here we go. What do you think makes America great? Switch. Okay. As I said, there's more. That one is almost more loaded, right? Okay, like that could be like what makes America great. That could be a Trump question. Or just as easily, I could have said, what will make America go forward into the future? And you may say that's a Kamala question, and I'm triggered by that, right? Okay, so again, the idea here is that we are learning, we are building on each of these listening skills, right? And we could use them in different moments. So we want to refrain when we get triggered, right? We want to think, oh, okay, well maybe for just a moment I need to be silent. Maybe I need to use this moment to calm down, right? Because we're triggered. And when we're triggered, our adrenaline starts pumping, right? And the blood rushes from our head to our extremities, right? So we can fight or flee, right? And where do we need blood? We need it in our legs. We need it in our hands and our arms, right? If we're going to fight or we're going to run away. Right? And we feel triggered sometimes, and we can also feel triggered when our identity is threatened, right? And our identity might be threatened whenever we come across someone who doesn't believe the same way we are, especially if they have a deep conviction about something, right? So what happens whenever you're triggered, right? What triggers you? What happens to you physiologically? Do your ears get hot? Do you start sweating? Does your voice raise? All of those things. You can use the time of listening to them to maybe take six count breath in, hold it for a second, 6 counts out. So let's practice that for just a second, right? Somebody's triggered you. Maybe somebody said something you didn't like when we did the last question, right? So we can take breath in on 6 counts. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold. And out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That literally will calm physiologically. Breathing can help calm our system, okay? All right, and so we can take some of that time and maybe use our silence for that if we feel triggered by something. Okay, all right, here's another one that you may have run across, and it is using open-ended questions, right? Answers that are questions that we can't get a yes or no answer to, okay? And prompts you to draw further details without adding your own perspective or leading the person in particular. And one of the best ones, best open-ended questions is tell me more about that. If you're really triggered too, this is a great way to take time to breathe, realize that they're thinking about this issue in a more complicated way than maybe you originally thought. We have a tendency, particularly when we're polarized, right, to just think they think this like everybody else thinks, right? Everybody who's listening to Fox thinks everything the same this way, and everybody who's listening to MSNBC thinks this way, right? But when you ask them to tell you more about that, or what was that like for you, or tell me more about, or what made you come to this conclusion, right? What was it like for you? So, we're going back to something that's a little less controversial, and you can use that one, or you can use one of these other prompts I'm going to give you, and they'll be a little bit more confrontational perhaps, right? Tell me your thoughts about 2 weeks ago's school shooting and what you think should be done about gun issue in America. That might be one you use. Or share your thoughts about what's happened over the last 2 weeks in Springfield, Ohio. Or is climate change real and what should be done about it? Or share your thoughts about January 6th. Okay? All right. And again, we're trying to get more. Now we're getting into a conversation a little bit more than just a monologue. Okay? Are you ready? And you can go. All right, and switch. Okay, all right. So we now have four skills, and the last skill is a little bit different. It's kind of the most difficult, and it really is something that would come later, particularly if you're dealing with some of these more controversial issues, right? So it is called sorting, grouping, and synthesizing, right? So we try to parse out different elements of what the speaker is sharing, right? The speaker shares a list of feelings. We might want to name them as distinct groups or into a category. We're talking about deeper questions because I've begun using my critical thinking skills. You're starting to think critically and make sense of what they're saying. I might begin by paraphrasing. You might begin by paraphrasing what it is they've said. So now you're moving away from just footprinting where you're just repeating the same words, but now you're putting them into your own words to make sure that you fully understand, and they want to let you know whether that you've really understood what it is that they've had to say. This one should be used when you feel you have fully listened to them. You fully think you have an understanding of their perspective, okay? So, for example, you might categorize their perspective. So if a partner says, we need to offer a path to citizenship for undocumented immigrants, many are fleeing violence and just want a better life. So you might parse that out by saying, so you value compassion and humanitarian support for people seeking a better life, right? You're concerned about the well-being of vulnerable populations, okay? Or you might say, I don't think government should mandate vaccines. People should have the freedom to make their own choices. And you might say, right, so you believe in personal freedom and autonomy over health decisions, okay? Or you're concerned, you're worried about government overreach and the loss of personal choice. Or they may say, we should begin weaning ourselves off our dependence on fossil fuels and transition to renewable energy, even if it hurts the economy in the short term. And you might parse that out to say, so you believe climate change is an urgent crisis that requires immediate action. You fear that if strong action isn't taken immediately, the environmental damage will be irreversible, leading to long-term global harm, right? And possible human extinction, right? So, right, you're taking what they're saying, you're kind of paraphrasing it back to them to make sure that you understood what it was that they had to say. So this is our last one, I'm just going to give you 30 seconds for this one each, and then we'll wrap it up. So share about a time you had a hard conversation across lines of difference. There was a conflict situation, or maybe you got into it with somebody who was politically completely different on an issue, right? We want to keep it at the issue level, and just talk about that. So here we go for 30 seconds. And switch. Okay, all right. Hey, thank you for your attention this evening. Hold on just 1 second. I do want to finish up in this manner. I want you to be thinking about one skill from today that you would like to continue practicing, right? And again, these skills, like any skill, only really work and become a part of us when we practice them. So, thinking about those, again, we're going to talk next week about storytelling, and then we're actually going to have some deeper conversations in the third week. So think also about a place or a person you may be able to practice this skill with. Again, thank you so much for your time with us this afternoon, this evening, and Chaplain Gernand is coming to dismiss you.
Yeah, let's say thank you to Dr. Wells. I hope you had a great time. Sit tight for just a minute while I give you some instructions before you go. Before you leave, if we could do our best to rearrange the chairs into rows, just the best that we can. And also, you may have come tonight and said, what does this have to do with chapel and Jesus, you know? I just had a moment over here, Dr. Wells, at our church on Sunday. We're going through a study of James, the book of James. And right there at the end of chapter 1, everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry. And so our church was doing this spiritual practice this week on listening well. And I didn't even think about coming together and having this seminar, so I just messaged my church, I'm winning the spiritual practice this week because I'm at a seminar on listening well. So may you listen well and be slow to become angry and keep a tight rein on your tongue this week, according to James. The Lord be with you this evening. Have a great week.